I want to alert the world to China's stealth war. It's a terrifying message.
If you remember back in World War II, there was an evil axis with Nazi Germany and other evil countries. Well, there's an evil axis today. You've got the Chinese Communist Party, you've got Russia, you've got Iran, you've got North Korea. They're selling each other military equipment, military espionage, military training, military this, military exercises, intelligence, and so on. So they're allied to where it makes sense for them. As long as it serves to defeat the free world, they're in.
A superpower war would be a type of conflict we haven't seen since the Second World War.
Should President Biden confront the aggressive actions of Beijing?
Chinese military has become noticeably more aggressive. How volatile does that make the region?
The world has become a much different place after the pandemic. We find ourselves caught in the shifting sands of political upheaval, reeling from one geopolitical crisis to the next. Be it the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, or the current tensions at the Taiwan Strait, America is scrambling to catch up. At home, life has never gone back to the way it was.
Main story this week, as it concerns a topic.
With soaring prices and inflation overwhelming the country, it's hard to see hope in the near future, where our very livelihoods are now at stake.
The question on everyone's mind, are we headed for a recession?
How the United States might react if China were to invade Taiwan.
Warning for the United States.
Every morning I wake up, I'm worried about the safety and future of my family. What's really set American nerves on the edge is the revelation that these crises in the wake of the pandemic have the CCP written all over it. We've seen the regime's fingerprints all over the place. But what is their plan behind the scenes? What is their ultimate goal? And just how far is the CCP willing to go? The most dangerous area in today's US-China Cold War is this part of the Indo-Pacific, Taiwan and the South China Sea. A place where the CCP is determined to take over one day. The strategically critical area is also where the US-China conflict is most visibly escalating. Conflicts in this region have only gotten worse with the US-China trade war and especially after the pandemic. To understand the CCP's strategic ambition for the world order, you first have to understand Taiwan and the South China Sea. Taiwan is more than just a U.S. ally. Given its strategic importance to the U.S., what would a Chinese takeover of Taiwan mean to us? Is Taiwan simply about China's domestic affairs, or as the CCP calls it, a reunification issue?
China is ramping up its retaliation. China with a warning for the United States.
In August 2022, in the wake of Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan, the Chinese regime held a major military drill surrounding the island, simulating a blockade. Days after the drills, in Beijing's new white paper titled The Taiwan Question and China's Reunification in the New Era, the regime refused to rule out force in its bid to take over the island. But how? Given its recent drills, Beijing is letting on two scenarios: to take over Taiwan in an all-out war, or to blockade the island, forcing its leaders into submission.
Xi Jinping right now has the incentives to do something that would take us by surprise.
If they need to do so with war, they're going to do that. It has been slow on behalf of Americans to recognize that.
We shouldn't view Taiwan as the CCP's ultimate goal, but as the first domino in a quest to reach regional and global dominance. If Taiwan falls, it will not be the end, but rather a beginning.
The problem is this: the island's location. Taiwan sits at a pivotal point in the first island chain that the U.S. sees as its line of defense to prevent the CCP's naval expansion into the Pacific. If Taiwan is lost to China, it will be much harder for the U.S. to protect other First Island nations, like Japan and South Korea, and U.S. military bases there will also be in peril. What's worse, a Chinese military base in Taiwan could well threaten the second island chain, including Guam. At that time, the security of the Philippines and even Australia would be on the line. But there's another level of strategic threat hitting closer to home: the deep-water ports on the east coast of Taiwan, the CCP's ticket to the Pacific. From there, Chinese nuclear submarines could freely enter the Pacific Ocean without being detected by U.S. forces. Every island in the Pacific, Hawaii, and even the U.S. West Coast would be threatened or even raided by a CCP nuclear submarine.
I will say they feel more confident. This is all because they sense their time has come, and they can afford being more aggressive, and the Western democracies couldn't do as much as we want to.
In the context of the escalating U.S.-China Cold War, Taiwan is no longer just an issue of cross-strait relations. It has become the front line of the U.S.-China Cold War. The security of Taiwan is the security of Asia. And the security of Asia is related to the security of the world.
What is the CCP doing to prepare itself to become the world's dominant power? How serious is the military threat posed by the CCP to the United States? This is a battle most Americans never saw coming.
China is increasing its nuclear arsenal at a much faster rate than the U.S. anticipated.
There's new concern tonight about China's military capabilities.
Bottom line, all this essentially means China is close to being able to launch a nuclear warhead against any other nation without any warning.
A recent Pentagon report warns China could have 1,000 nuclear warheads by 2030.
Clearly, the Pentagon has been shaken by the advances that the Chinese military has made.
Meanwhile, the Chinese regime is developing hypersonic glide missiles.
China's apparent hypersonic glide weapons test, in theory, could be capable of carrying a nuclear warhead that the U.S. can't see or defeat.
Go into space.
U.S. military officials admit that the U.S. lags behind China in its hypersonic weapons.
It is very concerning. I think I saw in some of the newspapers they used the term Sputnik moment. I don't know if it's quite a Sputnik moment, but I think it's very close to that.
I mean, basically the general's saying, we're not ready for this.
Mm-hmm. We're not ready for this. It has the potential of changing the balance of power between the United States and China.
John Hyten, the number 2 person in the U.S. military and vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, also issued a warning in an interview with CBS.
Hyten believes the Chinese are developing the capability to launch a surprise nuclear attack on the U.S.
Why are they building all of this capability? They look like a first-use weapon.
Because of Earth, control of Earth.
This is the most ambitious regime in history.
On one side, growing military threats to the U.S. On the other, the CCP strengthening new alliances as the world drifts closer to war.